Hi, Randall. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
Staying cool enough today?
Mostly I was out this morning earlier when it was cooler, so I've been indoors most of the day. So,
Yeah, it's a scorcher.
yep.
My sons had their first day of camp, and their camp is all outdoors all
Oh,
day.
wow.
And
Yeah.
they came home and they were both just drenched in sweat, red face.
Yeah.
Yeah. They still had fun though.
That's good. That's good.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Ben. Hey, B, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. You on vacation last week, maybe?
I was. I went to Seattle and the Pacific Northwest area. Went to Olympic National Park. It was super fun.
Nice.
We had no heat out there, but lots of rain, as is typical.
Right.
So we'll go and do introductions once the rest of the folks join, because we have our new council representative, Randall, and I was hoping I'd get to introduce our new city administrator, but he had another commitment this evening, but I think he'll be joining us at our next meeting.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
Oh,
I'm good. Good. How are you guys?
Hello.
Good. Hi, Matt.
Hello.
Hi, Darren.
Hello, everybody.
Well, we do have a quorum. That's good. We needed 4 because we're down a few members right now. So we need 4 of 7. Yeah, 4 of 7, which we have. And I know Mike Slavish was not able to make it. Oh, actually, we have 5. It's like Christina is the only, I think Christina is the only person that we're missing. Darren, I'll leave it up to you if you want to go ahead and call the meeting to order, if you want to give Christina a couple more minutes.
Let's maybe give it a minute, I guess.
Okay.
I saw Mike Slavish eating tacos the other day. I figure if he's got time for that, he should have
Right.
time for this.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's up to. He probably had a work meeting or something, because I know he's in town. So, yep.
All right, maybe we should, why don't we just get going, I guess. It's beautiful outside. Be mindful of everybody's time. It is 5:31. I'll call the meeting to order. I'm a little rusty. It feels like we haven't met in a long time here. Back in April. So would we have to call the roll first or attendance, Abby? Sorry, I'm a little. Or do we that
I have Roden, Fortney, Quack, Crow, and Adams present, Slavish and Stewart absent.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so the agenda was in the packet. The first item, it would be the approval of the minutes from the April 18th meeting. Did anybody have any edits or comments or changes to the minutes from way back in April? Okay.
I didn't really, but I know that we had reviewed our kind of strategic suggestions, and they were to be provided to the council. How do we know if that happened, or do we have to follow up on that?
Mike Davis did update the memo and he shared it with the council at one of his last meetings. And they didn't really have a lot of comments, but basically it was just kind of passed on to the strategic planning consultants to incorporate into the strategic plan.
Thanks.
Okay, well, we have a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion to approve.
Okay, is that Ben? Do we have a second?
Second.
Sam, quick with the second. All in favor? Notify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. Moving into the agenda items, the first one, introduction of council, Representative Randall Crow and committee members and staff. So.
And I am Randall Crow. I'm the new council rep for District 8 in the city. So.
And can you remind us kind of where that is for those?
That's on the my directions right, northeast side, mostly out Highway Q.
Okay.
I live in North Lake neighborhood.
Okay.
It includes the new development across Highway Q, and also includes like Arbor Lake Apartments, so kind of, and Shorecrest neighborhood too.
Got it. Yeah. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And I was just thinking maybe if all the committee members could go around and introduce themselves.
Yeah, that would be helpful to me too.
Sure.
So.
I can start. I'm Darren Fortney. I guess I'm the assistant vice chair. When Mike is gone, then I get to do these fun things. So I have lived in Middleton since 2005, 17 years. I'm an urban planner by nature. I work for a short Elliott Hendrickson consulting firm here in the Madison Middleton area. I live in Middleton Hills and have 4 kids and 2 dogs and 3 cats, and I like double cheeseburgers at Village Green on Saturdays. So there we go. Sam, I'm going to pass it to you.
Sam Adams, sorry, I've got an issue with my lighting in my, not normally in here in the summertime in the basement.
It's like a nice aura glow there.
Yeah, I look like I don't know,
Very
being
angelic.
interrogated or something. I've been living in Middleton for 7 years. I have 2 kids currently at Little Red Preschool for the summer, but one of them is at Northside. I work for a biotechnology company called Ensolin, which is based in University Research Park. Been on the Workforce Housing Committee for a little over a year now.
I can go next. This is Matt Kwok. I've been living in Middleton for about 4 years, and the Madison area, maybe another 6 to 7. I work here in Middleton at Spectrum Brands in engineering for small kitchen appliances, and probably also on the committee, yeah, about a year and a half or something like that.
And hey, Randall, I'm Ben Roden. I've been in Middleton 2006, I think. So I guess a year after Darren arrived. Been on the committee 2 years now, I believe. Yeah, and work for U.S. Bank. I'm in the lead in kids. I've got 6 kids. So the little bit older than Sam's, but so yeah, that's good to have you on.
Yeah, this committee over the past few years has changed quite a bit, so it's great to see new faces.
Yeah, and on that note, if you know of anyone else who would be interested in joining the committee, we do have some vacancies still, so they can share their application with Mayor Brar. He reached out to me to ask for some suggestions, and I made a couple, but I'm not sure if anyone who I suggested has the time to add another commitment. So if you know of anybody who's passionate about housing, send them our way. And by the way, I'm Abby. We've already met Randall, but I've worked for the city for 15 years, and I only have 2 kids, and they go to Sauk Trail, and I live in Fox Ridge neighborhood, pretty close to downtown.
Pets, no dogs, no cats.
No dogs and no cats. I'm trying to convince my husband it's 3 versus 1 on the dog, but so far we haven't had any luck. So
yeah,
we'll see.
All right. Well, we got the introductions done. We can move quickly into agenda item 2, which is referred by the Sustainability Committee, the review of the 2022 Sustainable City Plan Draft.
Yep, and I don't know if you all had a chance to look over the draft that I sent out. This was formally referred to the Workforce Housing Committee by the Sustainability Committee. They selected about 10 different city committees that they wanted to have review the plan. And then they also just sent it out broadly and said, if there are any other committees that want to take a look, we'd be happy to share it with them as well. It was intended to be discussed and reviewed at our plan commission meeting last week, but we had a glitch and that meeting ended up having to be canceled. So I'm not sure. I think that the Parks and Recreation Board is the only committee so far that has reviewed the document, aside from the Sustainability Committee. I read through it a second time with an eye toward housing because that's the purview of this committee. And I, in particular, was looking for anything that jumped out at me as a barrier for workforce or affordable housing. I didn't see any major red flags. I can kind of go through like kind of my bullet point list of the housing items that I read, but if you all have already read it, I don't want to rehash it for you all.
I mean, are there, and I'm just scrolling through it now, but are there any areas that are talking about, obviously some of this is going to be development driven, and perhaps I'm guessing some of the costs of this would be, or some of these initiatives would be participated by developers. Is that the case?
Yes.
What are the implications, do you think, of that on like just construction costs or housing costs or affordability or anything like that?
Yeah, well, so the biggest factor overall is in terms of like what the city can require is it's very limited because Wisconsin state law prohibits us from requiring anything that's stricter than the state building code. So we cannot say, for example, every single new multifamily project has to have solar on their roof. We can't require that. We can only incentivize it. So that's kind of the approach that we have taken given the limitations. And we have been incentivizing building design that goes above and beyond building code requirements in terms of energy efficiency, renewable energy, other sustainability features within buildings. We've been doing that through TIF primarily. The one area where the plan does have a requirement is for new multifamily buildings. They are recommending that the city require electric vehicle charging stations to serve new tenants. I personally don't think that's too controversial because most of the new multifamily buildings are already doing that. If we were to decide that 100% of the parking stalls had to be electric vehicle ready or have a charging station, that would add a lot of costs. But what we're looking at is something like, 10%. And because most multifamily projects are already doing it, I don't foresee that being a huge issue. I think that we can require it. It's not a building code issue. The city of Madison is requiring it, so it's not out of step with other Dane County communities. But that was the one thing that I saw where it was not a suggestion or something that the city was going to incentivize, but it was, we are going to require this.
Any other comments or thoughts of anyone? Yeah, I think it's great that we kind of get a look at this and, from our perspective of the workforce housing and what, if any, implications that might have. I think each committee obviously digs into what they know and what their charge is, and ours is to make sure that what we're doing is not necessarily prohibiting or hindering workforce housing in our community.
I know that the Commission on Youth, which I also serve on, at our last meeting, we talked about this quite a bit too.
Good.
So I'm guessing they haven't submitted the notes that they were taking on that, but they did have some questions on the costs for everything that's in this. And I realize that's not part of the Sustainability Committee's job, was to figure out all the costs, but that was also a concern of mine in terms of for workforce housing and affordable housing is, what it'll cost for developers to do this, things like that. So I don't know if that's some comment that we wanted to add as well to the Sustainability Committee to try to figure out, what some of the costs involved will be, and how those will be addressed.
Just interesting anecdotal stories. So the city of Madison is now charging a fee every month for use of their recycling, not the trash, but just the recycling bins. There's a monthly fee that they've added on, at least for commercial buildings. I don't know about residential, but I'm assuming so. So it's definitely the direction that some communities are going.
That is, I know that the recycling fee is one area where municipalities are able to generate revenue without going to a referendum. It's one of a few areas. So there are things like, the city can implement a wheel tax. You can charge for recycling, but you cannot charge for trash. That has always bothered me because I feel like if we implement a recycling fee, it's going to look like we're anti-recycling, but we are not able to implement a fee for garbage collection. State law prohibits that.
Oh, is that why? Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And for the record too, just I think the city of Madison for like a blue tub or what, it's like $5 a month. It's not overly significant, but it's still there.
Yeah, and to Randall's point about the overall costs for the recommendations, one of the things that we did recently with the University Avenue corridor plan is we had, several recommendations, and we had a planning and engineering firm that helped us with the plan, and we don't know exact costs, and that's common for a project like this, but they were able to create dollar sign like ranges at least to give an idea. So that might be something that the Sustainability Committee would be able to put together, is at least like, it fits into this $1 sign bucket, which means less than 10,000, or no, it's the $2 signs for this higher range, to at least come up with some estimates.
And for our purposes, we'd be particularly interested in the impact on developers' costs, right? I mean, the other costs would be interesting, but they're not really germane to this group, right?
Well, unless you're looking at it more high level and thinking about all of the costs that the city incurs translate to costs that we have to pass along
Get
to,
passed on somehow.
right, which right now the city is unable to raise taxes beyond the state's levy cap. So we couldn't, like, for example, we couldn't say, oh, we're gonna do net zero buildings on every new city building and we're gonna just pass it along to the taxpayers. We wouldn't be able to do that without going to referendum under state law. But I don't know, that could presumably change at some point in the future.
If I recall last year, the Sustainability Committee came to us with, was it a grant that they were, or program they're promoting for, for, I guess, promoting energy efficiency within
Yes.
workforce housing, right?
Yeah.
And is that worked in here? Is that, is that referenced in the plan at all? Kind of go as part of going forward efforts?
That's a good question. I'm just gonna search. I don't think that they reference that in this plan, but that project is moving forward.
Okay.
They have, they've secured all the funding. They have an agreement now that I think has been at least conditionally approved by the council with Elevate Energy and Sustain Dane, who are the partners. And they are working on one project, which is the Naturally Occurring Affordable Housing Initiative, the NOAA initiative. That's the one that they presented to this body, but they also separately got another grant that they're layering on top of it. It's called a Healthy Babies grant, and it's targeted toward making improvements within homes that translate into a lower risk for things like lead paint or other asbestos or things like that that can be real significant health problems, especially for small children. And then they also received another grant that is going to be a pilot project. It's about $500,000 to electrify an affordable housing development in Middleton. It's actually a development that's, it's an older project off of Allen Boulevard. It's owned by Wisconsin Housing Preservation Corporation, which Mike Slavish works for. And that grant is gonna be like a pilot project to electrify one whole building and show how that can be done. And then hopefully as the costs come down and it can be more replicated in other communities on other projects, but that is also being funded by a grant that their committee received. So they've got like kind of 3 different projects related to housing right now. And I'm not sure, I don't know why they're not included really in this document, but I think that it might just be because those are already in the works and they're trying to be more forward looking.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just did a search of that document for workforce. When I think of sustainability, I think of many of the things that are, of course, in this report, but also from our perspective, sustainability with like economic sustainability and the need to have, sufficient workforce to support all levels of jobs and services, within this community. And nothing came up on like employment, employees, workforce. But maybe that's just kind of assumed with the housing piece, I guess.
Yeah, I think the committee led by their chair decided to really focus on energy and kind of like the next 3 years, what they can tick off of the list to make some major progress on energy goals.
Right.
That's one of the things that I noticed in the recommendations, just kind of skipping to the end. There's this recommendation that looks like more of an overarching goal. I think the report itself is great, and so it's easy to kind of nitpick it. But the first bullet point that talks about getting to 100% clean energy community-wide to 2040 rather than 2050. That's great. That looks more like a goal, and with kind of all the activities would probably fall underneath that, I would assume. Just something I noticed, and then I took a look. A friend at MG&E, and they have the net zero carbon electricity by 2050. So just interesting that those goals were aligned at one point of 2050, and now our team has decided we should move it forward 10 years, which I think is great. But I don't see like the plan for it, for how that could happen. So like the goal is one thing, but how you do it is another. And I guess I need to study up on what this means exactly, because the MG&E definition is net zero carbon electricity. And this says 100% clean energy, which I don't know the difference, but or if they're the same or what, but that was just an observation that I had with the recommendations.
That's a good observation, and I don't know the answer to that question, Sam. I know when the City Council originally adopted the 100% clean energy resolution, there were a lot of questions from the council about how are you going to get there? And the Sustainability Committee at the time basically said, we need to set the goal, and then we're going to do everything we can to achieve it. But we don't know every single step. And also there are going to be a lot of changes in technology and other factors that we can't even predict at this point, but we need to set a bold goal. And that logic worked well enough on the council at the time that they approved the 100% community-wide goal of 2050. But I think the reason that it's under this as an action is because the committee is now going to go back to the council and ask them to approve a new resolution with a new target deadline, but they don't know all the ways that we're going to be able to reach it. I don't think any of us have those answers.
So is there any formal action, Abby, that you think we would need for this second agenda item, or is it just more of a, take a look at it type of thing?
Yeah, I think if there are any items that you think require clarification, comments, changes, you're really concerned about, if there are other things that you want to have included in the plan, anything like that that you want to pass back along to the Sustainability Committee, I think they're expecting that they're going to get a lot of feedback from other committees, because this is the first time that anyone has seen the document. So if you have anything that you want to pass along to them, you could do that through a formal action, or if you're happy with the plan the way it is and you don't have any feedback, that's fine too.
I keep coming back to the employment, right, and workforce, and I get that this is energy focused, which takes me back to transportation, which takes me back to having affordable housing in our community. So I'm circled back now, and I'm back on it. What does the transportation? Because in order to have sustainable transportation, it needs to have housing in and around employment centers. So I'm just wondering what the transportation. Trying to find it here.
There was a brief reference to public transportation, electric vehicles, and
okay, I see it. public transportation, bikes, other low carbon. You know, right. From my perspective, reducing like vehicle miles traveled, you know, certainly buses will help that, bikes and cars, but also just simply living closer to where you work or having the ability to live closer to your work would also help to, you know, in that transportation element. And that's, from my perspective, that's really how that relates to what we're doing is connecting people in jobs. And the more we can do that and closer we can do that, and the more we can integrate that, that's the less driving around either within the city of Middleton or from the suburbs into Middleton or city to into Middleton or vice versa.
And so transportation is one part, but density is another, right? Right. Just
Yeah. Yep.
if you got the density, reduces the needs for the miles to begin with. Right?
Okay, so reducing vehicle miles traveled through less driving by enabling people to live close to where they work, including workforce housing and also density of population.
Yeah, I think
Along transit or that are well served by transit or something like that.
yeah, well served maybe by a transportation network, including transit or something. You know, I think everybody else says, well, yeah, we're going to go buses, we're going to go cars, we're going to go bikes. You know, to me, that's really basic, simplistic. You know, those are the go-to, the low-hanging fruit. But the more complex thing is actually how do we get people out of the cars or closer to their jobs, knowing that they're probably still going to drive because it's Wisconsin. But you know, if we can integrate workforce housing closer to employment centers, I think that would be another way of reducing driving within and, you know, coming through the city.
Okay. And then I can also, I mean, if you decide that those items and some of the other items that you're talking about should be passed along, I will be sure to also include the comment related to costs or some kind of cost estimate for the items.
Yeah, as it relates to affordability, right? Either through like, yeah, pass on costs or, you know, increase in property taxes that you know, a tenant may have to start to absorb.
And then I can include Sam's comment too about moving the year from 2050 to 2040. And also as it relates to MG&E's net zero goal.
Any other, how many points is that, Abby? Is that like 5? Ish?
I would say 4, yep.
Okay. So any other items that we can recommend back to the sustainability committee, other than the 4 that Abby just mentioned?
Just another nitpick on this defining city and community in that square box on page 5. There's just a typo. It says electricity and it doesn't finish it was helpful because it did define that, but it doesn't finish the paragraph.
Which page did you say it was on?
Oh, it's on page 5. It's like the inset box defining city and community. I think there should be a sentence underneath there.
Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, it probably got cut off here. Okay, I will let them know.
This is not another point, but just I kind of Sam, for your question earlier, when you mentioned MG&E, I think you're referring to, they might have a carbon like net zero commitment, which is, fairly common one, which is a little bit different than a clean energy commitment, right? Because the carbon net zero, like how much waste you produce, it impacts your carbon footprint, but doesn't really impact your, clean energy is more how do you source your energy? Is it just all solar and wind, versus fossil fuels?
Okay.
Right, so it's kind of if you have a carbon footprint commitment or net carbon zero commitment would be more kind of more about kind of in parts what do you source and then what do you use, what type of waste do you produce, or what else do you do that produces carbon? Whereas I think the clean energy is a bit more about how do you source your energy.
Got it. So which one's harder?
Yes. But that's the clean energy is a lot easier to measure, right? The carbon footprint's very difficult to measure, right? I mean, it can really accurately. So the clean energy one's a lot easier to measure, right? Because if you're sourcing solar and you're offsetting your coal with that, right? That's just a lot easier to measure. So that's probably makes it easier.
Okay, so would we like a motion to carry these 5 or 6 recommendations that Abby's been tallying back to the Sustainability Committee? If so, does somebody want to make a motion?
Sure, I can make a motion to take the 5 or 6 recommendations that we've just discussed and return them back to the Sustainability Committee, and also to thank them for allowing us to have a review of their hard work.
I'll second that. I think it's always hard to have. No, I suppose we should take. All right, so we have a motion by Sam, second by Darren. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 It's always tough to come up with stuff and then have people review it.
Right.
From other committees, so. All right, looks like a short agenda tonight. Is that that's all we have?
That's it.
Short meetings are good sometimes. Abby, how many of these meetings are you? Is it one every single night almost? Just about?
No, I wouldn't stand for that. No, it's like 2 or 3 nights a week.
Oh, it's just okay.
That's more than enough.
Yeah.
Is there a timetable for potentially going back in person, or is it just all kind of depends on watching the trends?
Well, we are in person now for Common Council and find other meetings that meet right before the Common Council. So that's Finance Committee, Personnel Committee. I think all the other committees are still remote and waiting for direction and guidance from the Common Council. We are expecting that by the end of August, we will have hybrid technology in place for the Common Council chambers. So that would allow us to have hybrid meetings in a larger space, because right now we only have one room where we can do a hybrid, and that's conference room B at City Hall. I have been using that hybrid technology to host community campus committee meetings now, and it's working great in conference room B. So there is the potential that we could at least have some committees meeting hybrid, because there are still, I think there's some people, and it's kind of a dwindling group, I think at this point, that still want to meet remotely. But, and we could maybe offer both. We could have the people in person who want to meet in person, and then the rest of the folks could join on Zoom. But I think that our city attorney needs to help us to revise some of our ordinances related to what constitutes a quorum, because I believe that right now you have to have a physical quorum present. And so like tonight we needed 4 of 7, but if we had 4 but 1 was remote and the other 3 were in person, I think under our current requirements, that wouldn't be a quorum. So I staff a lot of committees for the city, and I'm just trying to treat them all the same, and I'm just waiting for the common council to decide what they want to do, because if the council wants to go back to in-person or do hybrid, I'll just switch over all of my committees. The only one that I've been doing handling differently is the community campus committee, and that's because they meet during the day. And so I'm already working at City Hall every day. So I just have, I'm already there, so I don't mind setting it up as hybrid.
I do remember this is one of my first meetings. We did talk about what needed to be done in terms of how we counted attendance and quorums. And I don't remember what we decided. I'd have to go back and look at the minutes in the meeting if anything was decided or if we just discussed it. So I do know that Library Commission has had their last 2 meetings in person.
Oh,
And Commission on Youth also met the last meeting. They met in person. So
okay.
I think it was more just the members of the committee deciding, yeah, it was okay to meet in person. They didn't have anybody that, you know, wouldn't be able to attend because they didn't want to, because of meeting in person. So
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, I guess I would also be fine doing the in-person if that's what the committee wanted. I have the Community Development Authority, Workforce Housing Arts Committee, Community Campus Committee, Plan Commission, and I just figured we would kind of, in my opinion, it is more transparent and friendly to the public if we kind of are all operating the same, instead of some people are doing one thing and some people are doing another. You know, we just don't want to confuse people who want to come to a city meeting and not have them know whether it's on Zoom or in person or hybrid. So I kind of have just been waiting to find out what the council tells me what to do. But I would also be fine going to in person if that's the overwhelming feeling of this group.
I'm fine with either.
Yeah, I'm good with either right now.
All right, well, we'll stick it out here on the Zoom unless the council tells us differently, and I'll keep you all posted.
Good. It is. Anything else? No. It's at 6:09 on my watch. Does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn? Does
I'll
Darren
move to
have-
adjourn.
Oh, go ahead. Is that you, Ben?
Yep. Yep.
I'll second. All in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great
Thanks,
meeting. Great to
everyone.
see you all.
nice meeting
Right.
everyone.
Yeah, you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Sure.